I would go back to the basics, kind of the basics. One of my first talks about trauma and what the body has to do with it. And the body has to do with everything. So we're going to talk about the body's wisdom tonight. And I like to say that there's a lot of real estate. There's more real estate from our necks down than our heads up, than in our heads. Because as a society, we value this. We value our brains. We value our logical thinking, our rationale, our intellect. And what we've got from our necks down is our bodies, our physical selves. And there's a lot of information there that doesn't get tapped like our brains do. So obviously everybody has a body. So who has stress in here? Yeah. So 80 to 90% of the ER visits are stress related. So how does stress usually show up for you?
For me, it's neck, back, shoulders.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tension, really tight, headaches maybe.
I don't get headaches, but you know what I do? I tend to not breathe very deeply.
Yep. That's a big one. Yep. How about you?
The same thing, my neck and my back, but I know every once in a while it goes to my stomach.
Like butterflies or upset stomach, that kind of thing? Yep. Okay. And is that how you know that you're then stressed? Is that you have these physical symptoms? Yeah. So under stress, when we're under stress or trauma, I'm going to kind of use those two words interchangeably tonight. We actually don't think very clearly because we get hijacked by our physiology, our body's biology. So every time you think about the stress and what you're stressed out about, that gets wired into our brains. So it starts to make that neural network, a neural path. So what we often say is that the neurons that fire together wire together. So it's kind of how you form a habit. If you do something consistently and a particular thing like bite your fingernails, every time you bite your fingernails, you're making a neural network. You're making a neural pattern to continue to do that. It gets myelinated, and myelination is like grease, and so it makes those neurons fire even faster. So when you start to break that habit of not chewing your fingernails, you actually are starting to make another neural network, another pathway in a different direction. And then that one becomes more myelinated, not chewing your fingernails. This side becomes less myelinated. So eventually these neurons don't fire as fast, and eventually they don't fire at all. But this side of not chewing your fingernails does. So does that make sense? So part of the physiology in under a stress or a traumatic event is that our brains go offline, like our prefrontal cortex, so the very front of your brain, which is your language center and your ability to be rational and make logical, consequential decisions, it goes offline. It's like unplugging your computer, your hard drive's down. So what you have left is your body.
That's interesting.
So, and that's what happens too when there is a traumatic event. We don't have that ability to go into our brains and logically, chronologically pull information out. And I'll have people come in on my table and they'll be like, well, I don't know why my left knee hurts. That was not part of the accident, or why would my left knee hurt when I'm stressed out and all my stress is up here? Well, at some point there was a traumatic event that your brain went offline and your body was available, and so it just tucks it wherever, and it doesn't make any sense where it goes. It just goes there. So your nervous system takes over, and the neocortex just slows down. There's not as much communication within the brain itself. Your language center shuts down, which I already mentioned. So then you don't have words for the experience. So it's like hard to talk about what even happened. You find yourself going, well, I don't know how to describe it to you. It was just awful. It was just horrible. That's all I got. And the limbic system, which is the oldest part of the brain, just does its thing. And that's the fight, flight, freeze response, and it just goes into automatic. The body's language is sensation. So being able to access the body's language, we need to learn what that is, and that's sensation. So feeling is in the mind, and interpretation of sensation. So your body system is slower, and if you reduce to sensing, to really sensing what is happening in your body, then it's harder to re-traumatize yourself, or to be re-traumatized in another situation, like in a therapist's office or in a massage therapist's office or talking to other people. So how we do that is we focus and we become mindful of our felt sense. And we're curious, and we're just doggedly ask for experience. It's all about experiential, not content, not the story behind the traumatic event. Excuse me. And a lot of stuff becomes habit, that automatic that I talked about, that neural network of firing in a certain way. So sometimes that's not very conscious. So transformation is the ability to go off of automatic, to be able to become aware, and in that awareness becomes an ability to make new choices that we weren't previously available. Automatic. When we're on automatic too, that's about reacting. You can't make as good of a choice when you're just going on automatic. And the automatic reactions comes from the place where we're hurt and comes from our wounding. Life is experiential. So what is going to happen to us is not learned on a cognitive level, but our ancient brain is what's functioning and informing our bodies. So it really is our biology, our physiology, and that felt sense. The body sensation is what makes everything meaningful. So focusing on the body sensations and doing that, like I said, in a really curious way, in a very gentle way, and accepting the messages that we're hearing allows you to go more inside to your inner self. And that's how we process and really honor that wisdom that is inside of you. Becoming aware of that really subtle level of knowing is what helps you make and have a wider range of choices that's available. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, and sensation is, so I keep saying that. So our body sensations, the easiest way to explain it is we know about pain, right? So people can come into my office and they go, yeah, I'm in pain, I hurt. Okay, but tell me about that. And so take a minute and go into your body and tell me, what is that pain? And there's millions of ways to describe that. Is it prickly? Is it achy? Is it chronic and constant? Is it sharp? Does it just jab you and kind of goes away? Does it feel hot? Is it like pins and needles? I mean, you can think of all these different ways to describe what that sensation is. So, and that's the part that I'm talking about. It's going into, what do I actually feel and sense in my body? And when you get into that space, it is slower because you need to take a moment and sit and go in there and become aware of it. And then it's got to trickle up to your brain, and your brain has to process that and label what it is you're sensing. And those words are often more challenging to find. Like if I say the word effervescent, you kind of get this picture in your mind and you can tell what I'm talking about. But to be able to sense that in your body somewhere, you can imagine that would take a little bit of effort maybe, and a calming down of that, our minds, and kind of even putting our minds on hold to be able to get in there and really sense what's effervescent. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's a ton of truth in our bodies because of that. Our bodies are wise in so many ways that we hardly ever acknowledge because we're so concerned about the brain and our intellects and our thoughts and our opinions and our knowledge that we forget all of this other stuff, that our bodies carry knowledge about who we are, how we're living our lives. Our bodies carry that knowledge about what we need to do to live more fully, to be ourselves. Our bodies carry that knowledge about what we value and believe even, and it carries that knowledge about what hurts us emotionally and how to heal it. Your body already has all that information in it. Our bodies can also tell us who are the best people to be around. Who's the person that you just love and they really bring out the best of you, and your body can tell you who's the person that you need to avoid because they are just like negative, bad, suck you dry kind of things. And our bodies know what the right next step is to bring us a more fulfilling and rewarding life. And we as a society and as people have been that's been bred out of us to be able to do that and come in contact with that. So with all that, the change that happens in the present moment. So that's also a way that we end up not re-traumatizing ourselves, because if we are strictly in the present moment, what is happening right now, and listening to our bodies right now in this moment, it's easier to integrate that, and it's harder to re-traumatize or to continue to stress out about it. And that's the gift of the body. The body always operates in the very present moment, right here, right now. The body doesn't hang out in the past, and the body doesn't hang out in the future, which is where our minds always are, right? I'm thinking about, oh, what did I do today? I should have not done that. And oh gosh, I got this thing tomorrow. We're rarely right here, right now. And so that's part of how we kind of stress ourselves out or continue to stress ourselves out, because we're back there and we're up there and we're not here. But our bodies are always right here. They're always right here. And that's really a gift. And to move into that part of you, that's where the power is to transform. And that's where you can really start to focus and become aware of your body and what you need to do to make changes in your life. So, I think my little bio talked about all these questions I was going to answer for you. And it's really about you answering those questions for yourself. And the way you get to do that is by accessing what's in your physical bodies, not just your brain. Your brain is equally important. I'm not saying that we got a fight, one is better than the other. I'm saying they're equal. I'm saying it's an and instead of a this is good and that's bad. So you want to try it? That's the exciting part. Okay, so how we're going to start then is we just want to settle in to your chair, get really comfortable. And so just start by taking a nice deep breath, nice belly breath, not from the chest, but really bring the breath all the way down. And another one in and out. And I'm going to invite you to pay more attention to what you're sensing in your body. And don't worry, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just going to sit and be curious. Be curious about what you're feeling, what you're sensing. And let's start by directing your attention to where your body comes in contact with the chair. Do you notice if the chair is soft or hard? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cool? Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just being curious. So now notice if there's a part of your body that's calling your attention. Maybe your shoulder aches a little or feels kind of funny. Maybe it's your knee. So becoming aware of that place in your body that wants a little attention. And some of what we do is just become aware of it and say hello to it. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just curious. And it's okay to just be with it as it is right now. We don't try and make anything happen. We're not trying to find feeling or label. Just inviting something to be felt by asking a gentle, open question, such as, what wants my awareness or attention right now? And maybe if something has bubbled up for you, so then we sit with it and get to know it better with that attitude of curiosity. We're in no hurry. We just want to create an inner atmosphere of no pressure and just being there. Asking gently, inviting the feeling or the sensation to tell us more. Often, the merely simple act of acknowledging the message and really hearing it is all that's needed to bring a deep sense of relief. When we end a session, we do it slowly and respectfully. Sometimes we want to stay with the feelings that have come up, especially if they're good ones or happy ones, or help us feel calm and relaxed. Or if that's the case, we just say thank you to the body and tell the body you'll be back. Because now you've been able to access that, and that's always there and available for you. It's always there and available for you when you need it. So take your time, say thank you to your body, and come back to the room. when you're ready. So how was that for people?
Lovely. Lovely.
Do you feel calmer, hyped up?
No, I feel I'm peaceful.
Peaceful. Nice. Okay. Either one of you?
I wasn't sure what we're doing.
Yeah.
But just the slowing down of the breath
Mm-hmm. Helps a lot. Yep.
helped a lot.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure if we were concentrating on a physical point in the body.
Could be. Mm-hmm. It could be physical.
We need to continue to have a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
So does that count? Is that what
It
we're
could.
going to do?
And you could look at a question maybe you would pose for yourself in a time of meditation is, where does courage reside in your physical self? You know, is it in the tip of your finger? or is it in your shoulder? Is it in your fist? You know, is it an expression in your face? Is it in your big toe? I mean, and that's part of the body that doesn't make sense. I mean, as I talked before, our brains are very logical. Put in a little file cabinet, you can pull stuff out, but our bodies are kind of crazy and things can be wherever they can be. And so oftentimes it doesn't make sense to us where something resides. And that's okay. And that's where that being curious about it comes from, and being gentle with it comes from, so that you can allow that to bubble up for you of where that might be. Maybe your courage is in your heart or in your solar plexus. But that would be a kind of a good question for you to sit with and go, yeah, where is it? And then once you identify where it is for you, then it makes it easier for you to access it in the future when you need to be courageous. You're like, oh, I need to be courageous in this incident, and I know where it is, so I'm going to take a minute, and I'm going to tap into that felt sense of courage and where that felt sense of courage is in my physical body. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Kind of.
Okay. How about for you?
When you use the word effervescent, that was all around my brain, my head. I could just feel like little pops, like soda pops, you know.
Yep.
And the calmer I got, the more it settled. And I realized I get up here too much,
A lot.
too fast.
Yep. Yep.
Overwhelm myself.
Yep.
Yeah, and just calm down.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yeah. And that's the big piece about how we get into our bodies to access that stuff. It is about calming down. Oftentimes we treat those felt senses like unwelcome party guests, and we just never go talk to them, even though they show up. I mean, we've all been nervous, I'm sure, and we feel the butterflies in your stomach, or you just get that gut sense that somebody's not right or something's going to happen. And those are those unwelcome party guests. Those are the felt senses that we have that we just don't pay attention to because we're so into our brains, because we value our brains. Let me think here. Let's see. So, to be curious and open to the experience and interested in what you don't know. I mean, there's where the curiosity comes from. We spend a lot of time with, well, I already know this, I already know that, I already know this. And it's like, well, but there's a lot of information of what we don't know. So again, we kind of know lots about our brains, but we don't know a lot about our physical bodies. And so paying attention to that and learning and being curious about that is going to be where a lot of your wisdom comes from. And that is where the wisdom is where and in what's not already clear and what's not known. I mean, expanding your knowledge base and going into that space that you don't know about is where there's a lot of wisdom. Does that make sense? She's like, no.
Space that I don't know about.
Our bodies are a big space of what we don't know about. like that felt sense. So what I talked about earlier is that our body's language is sensation. And sensation is easily described as like pain is my main example. So people will come into my office as a massage therapist and say, I have pain in my shoulder. Okay, well, but tell me about that. Is it sharp? Is it stabby? Is it prickly? Does it come and go? Is it constant? And I'll watch people when I greet somebody in my waiting room. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. And we walk back to my treatment room and we stand in the treatment room. I said, so how are you? And I say, how's your body? I'm very specific about that. And then I watch people go, because they're checking in with their body. They're checking in with their physical part. And that's the part we don't spend enough time with, and that's the part that's unknown to us. We spend a lot of time up in our heads. Oh yeah, I know this, I have this opinion, I have this thought, I have this feeling, but we tend to not spend a lot of time in our physical selves.
Yes,
yeah, now you get it? Okay, good. Yeah, that's a great question though. So it's important to really get into that sense and to understand what that's about, because that will move you from one place to another. It helps us get unstuck. We can do counseling and talk therapy, and that's all like our brain, and that will take you a long ways in getting you to an unstuck place, to getting you to feel more calm or more freedom or better about yourself and gain more confidence. If you add into that felt sense, what your body's telling you, what your body's language is telling you, then it's going to take you even farther in your process of healing. Because it's just so important. It's just so important. And that's, as I said earlier, that's where all that information you're gonna find a lot more information about who's good for you, who's bad for you, what's the right next thing to do, what am I supposed to be doing, what am I not supposed to be doing, is this a good choice, if I can have both my brain and my body sensation working together, then I see more possibilities and there's even more chance and opportunities that I couldn't see before, because you just have so much more information. And the body, like I said too earlier, is that the body always operates in the present moment. And that's where the most change can be. And so if we're disconnected from our physical bodies, then we're kind of not present too. So if we're always in our heads, we tend to be thinking in the past or we're thinking in the future. When we sit in our bodies and our body's space and that felt sense, then we can be in the present moment. And slowing down is really important. And a great way to slow down and an easy way to decrease stress, to decrease feeling traumatized, is to do that breath, is to breathe, is to belly breathe. So many of us, including myself, when I'm really stressed out, I kind of breathe from my upper half of my body. And we cause all kinds of problems that way too. From a massage therapist perspective, if we breathe from our upper half of our bodies, we start to breathe we use our neck muscles to breathe, and then our neck muscles continue to tighten, which can lead to headaches, which can lead to more stress and pain tension in our upper shoulders and in our backs. And so if we take that moment to just go, and to belly breathe, we as women, of course, want to suck our bellies in and be all nice and thin, right? So if we put our hands on our bellies though, and we make sure that our bellies rise and fall, like you're blowing up and inhaling, blowing up a balloon, and exhaling, letting the air out of a balloon. If we do that, then we're bringing all that air all the way down into our bodies. We're using the muscles that we're supposed to use for respiration. We're starting to calm our nervous system down. You start to get into the parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, instead of the sympathetic, which is the stress response, which is fight and flight, fright, freeze. And little known fact, which is really cool, when we actually belly breathe, we're using our diaphragm the way it's supposed to be used, which then massages our internal organs so that they do the job that they're supposed to do. So if you have a little constipation maybe, or a little tummy upset, maybe standing or sitting and taking a couple nice belly breaths will start to alleviate some of that too.